that's up. Hey, sorry for delays. New stuff. So, folks, in case you're listening and you're just listening to me mumble to myself, I don't have an engineer. I used to have a show with a dedicated engineer. I'm not really intending to go back to that short term, although, of course, it wouldn't hurt. But whenever I do something new, there's going to be weird delays like this. Please don't take it personal. Okay. Oh crap! I'm not signed in. Of course I'm not. How else was that gonna go? Okay. Get the password. Just want to see my page, my content. Okay. Oh, look at this. Watch. This. No, it does not say it's working. Why not? Okay. So, in case you guys are wondering, I didn't actually announce it because I was going to do it with the screen on, but I'm actually working on Rumble. I set up Rumble. It's just not. Maybe I just don't know what I'm doing yet. Go live. Let's try that. Yeah, it's not liking it. I did have one other key to try. I have to interrupt all the other streams to do it. I don't know if that's worth it. Can I change the key? I wonder. Fix this. Alright, I don't think anyone's watching it, and I don't want to hold the people up who are regulars anymore. So we're going to go live, and I'm going to fix this for next time. So if you guys are ready, let's do this.
Alright, so we go live in 3, 2, 1, and then we're going. Sorry for all those delays.
Hello and welcome to the Technocrat Live. I'm your host, Matthew Newhall. I am very sorry to that imaginary person who was on Rumble waiting for me and is not. There's nobody waiting there for me, so I'm not feeling too bad about it. Looks like I'm healthy everywhere else. Please let me know in the comments if I sound and if I look good, if the video is good and everything. It was a little hairy getting this set up, so I'm sorry for the delay. Welcome, and this is the Technocrat Live. I'm your host, Matthew Newhall, and today's show is going to feature the Dystopia Report. I have several interviews coming up. I have a bunch of new equipment, a bunch of new things in the studio, some of which I set up, some of which I didn't have time for. But it's getting pretty pro in here. So, and boy, do I have things to say. Wait till you see what happens next. Yeah, so let's get right into Dystopia Report without taking any more of your time. Sorry for making you wait for 10 minutes while I futzed around with the streams. Okay, so the first topic is AI, and the first section is AI. And this is kind of funny, actually. The third place winner of the 1839 Artificial Intelligence Images Contest. Has image disqualified? Yeah. So this is under AI. So this is an AI image contest. Well, apparently he was the favorite, including among many academics, for what an amazing AI image he created. Well, it turns out it was actually a photo of a flamingo. They kicked him out for coming up with fake AI. He did it mainly as a prank, but I gotta give credit to Miles Astray. Wow, I mean, bold move, and he was a good enough photographer that he knew how to make a good, but interesting, weird photo look like it was surreal enough that people bought it. Anyway, check it out. The 1839. They have several photo contests a year. I just thought that was pretty funny, and apropos, because apparently a lot of AI has been faked, and I missed a couple of those stories while I was in my little hiatus. So, all right. So that's that story. Also in the AI section today in Dystopia Report. Apparently China is testing more driverless cars than any other country. Okay, I mean, you might be like, yeah, they just love tech. Well, that's kind of what the New York Times said. They said, oh yeah, it's just that the Chinese drivers, they just want to brake. They don't want to drive around so much. Yeah, I don't know. To me, it's pretty obvious. I think any government that's really gung-ho. Now, of course, companies can be motivated by profits. And there is a luxury car market in China, just like everywhere else. But any government that's pushing really, really hard for AI controlled cars probably wants the ability to control their citizens' movement. Because if you have a full-blown AI in a car and you can pressure the manufacturer to give you control, you can tell it to peacefully move over to the side of the road without causing any distress. And now you've got a clear road for emergency vehicles in the best case, or tanks in the worst. So, really not great. New York Times kind of wimped out on this one. And if you're wondering, okay, what's my logic? I'm speculating on this news story. But I actually looked up some statistics. China absolutely has the fastest mass transit growing mass transit in the world. And I mean, there are arguably better mass transit systems elsewhere, but I mean, it is growing like gangbusters. And the reason why is it's the only way to move people in China, and it's the only way to solve the road congestion problem. I mean, you'll get a 10%, a 20% increase if all the cars are being controlled by AI and human drivers weren't creating false intersections. So that's not it. That's not what they're really after. Their roads are so backed up because they're still just building them now. So they can't build the roads fast enough for the growth in cars and well-heeled population that can afford cars. The only thing they can do is improve mass transit. So this isn't about this. They're taking a little pressure off the roads with AI-supported cars, but that's not really it. They want to control the movement of their people. And someone doesn't need to look any further than the Communist Revolution in China to see, oh yeah, being able to move around the country quickly means that you have power. So anyway, politics falling squarely under tech, under AI. Governments using AI to do their bidding. If you think you can make people commit atrocities, when you can make them believe absurdities, multiply that times 100 for AI. All right, on to tech government. So Bitcoin is there's a Bitcoin anonymizing wallet called Samurai, and it sounds phonetically like samurai, but it's actually Samourai, and it's an anonymizing wallet for Bitcoin. Well, apparently the U.S. government has decided to go after the writers of this wallet, right, for writing an anonymizing wallet. So a couple things that are interesting. First of all, everyone's kind of disturbed because these guys are just writing code and just putting it out there. And, there is a centralized server. This is a commercial service, so it's not like they're doing it for free. The second you start getting paid or getting a cut for your services, that really changes it from some kind of charity open source project. But at the same time, it's the government's counting on the fact that people think that Bitcoin's anonymous, but it really isn't. And I've heard of projects a decade ago where they were working on being able to yarn board out who was interacting with who to get people who were laundering money. And that's good work. I'm not saying that's bad. I get it. Money launderers are a problem. If you can follow the money, you can stop the mob. But not everybody who wants to move money around is a mobster. That's the problem with that kind of mentality. So some of the servers were actually based in Iceland. So this is an international operation. They were able to get international cooperation when they seized the Iceland servers. So apparently they were able to make the case to the EU. Is Iceland in the EU? I know they're partnered. I don't know if they're actually part of it. I'm confused. Anyway, let me know in the comments if they're part of them. So that's interesting. Reason.com if you want to read more. Also in tech government, I don't know if you've heard about the rootkit called CodeHanger, but China's back in the news. So CodeHanger has been running amok on various government VPN services for years now. It looks like the Dutch are the ones who actually kind of blew the whistle and went to the press and said, this is crazy. We need to stop this madness right now. And there was a zero-day exploit in a VPN appliance called Fortinet, and that appliance had a zero-day exploit. There was a zero-day. If you not familiar with a zero-day exploit is, it's when you can immediately break into a server. In other words, it's known about this exploit in the wild before the manufacturer even begins working on a fix. So this is particularly a problem with in cybersecurity when you have what cybersecurity people call an APT, or an advanced persistent threat. In other words, typically a government, but it could be a business or it could even be a single actor waiting to break into something. And of course, China being a state, it looks like they were waiting to break into a whole bunch of government facilities, and therein was these VPN servers. The company got notice 2 years ago that this vulnerability was being experienced in the wild. They quickly fixed it, to their credit. They put it in their upstream fixes, and then they didn't notify anybody. So this kind of creates an interesting situation. There's like a 3-step process, right? You give, if you want to be a whitish hat, you don't have to necessarily be a good guy, but at least like a neutral person. If you want to be a ethically neutral cybersecurity / hacker person, you find a zero-day exploit, you report to the company, you give them a little time to fix it. And they fixed it, but they didn't tell anybody. They didn't announce it. It didn't become an announcement. And that's a big problem because nobody knew it was a problem, and there were enough unpatched VPN appliances out there in government installations that I'm getting text messages like crazy. There were enough unpatched servers in government installations that I gotta read this because we had all those delays. I gotta make sure that this is it's not even about me. Oh, jeez, ego trip on my part. That 20,000 VPN appliances in governments all over the world have been compromised and have had the CodeHanger rootkit sitting on them. And apparently not only is it difficult to detect, but it's difficult to remove. So there's very serious consequences from this company not putting an announcement out and saying, hey, you need to patch immediately. This is a drive a truck through the hole kind of exploit. Anyway, no good. Shame on you guys. Shame on you, Fortinet. Okay, on to the Japanese government who wants to climb into bed with its citizens. That's exciting. Have you ever had a three-way with the government? Well, the Japanese people are going to have one. At least pretty soon they're going to. They want them to make babies. They're calling it futari, which apparently is the opposite of history. Hitori, which means alone. They have the 8th year of declining birth rates in Japan, and they just don't know what to do. You must. Oh, by the way, you must sign a form saying that you are indeed desiring to get married. Lots of people are going to want to sign that form. And by the way, in case you didn't think this was already enough of a nightmare, you also have to, have to subject yourself to salary checks, and there are salary requirements. So that's bonkers. So I really hate it. Oh, wait a second. I might have a message that has something to do with the show. Okay. Yeah, all right. This is not about the show. Actually, it is about the show. Dude! Hold on a second. I just have to... 1 second. I am live right now. Duh. Anyway. So, somebody forgot the show and they're texting me. Dude, why are you texting me? Telling me about giving me advice. Oh, Nate Berry, thanks so much. It is not a member of the European Union. Thanks, Nate Berry. I appreciate that. And thanks for tuning in. Really good to see you. That's fine. Whatever, man. Get this. I think it's pretty clear that if people in Japan aren't wanting to have babies, it's probably because their living conditions are too nasty and they just don't feel like they can raise a family sanely or safely. And what could you do to do something about that? I don't know. The government has a lot of power here. Making a dating app is not necessarily the way to solve it, especially when with very sexist restrictions. I mean, whatever. It's culture, I guess. You can call sexism culture, I guess. I would say that they really need to be focused on making a shorter work week, because apparently the hours that people work in Japan are through the roof. Some people have suggested reducing the number of hours that the Japanese people work, but I don't think that that's a good idea. Lots of white-collar people work more than 40 hours a week. But if the expectation that you show up in the office one less day is there, the market, the job market, the employment market will eventually adjust. So that's solvable. Also another thing you could do, and this is a relatively simple one: bars, clubs, any kind of festivals or public activities. Like if you're not into that kind of thing, maybe like nonprofits that are oriented around groups of people, make them cheaper. Lower property taxes on bars. Make it easier to set up nonprofits so people can meet on topics that they're interested in. Create public meeting spaces and public meeting halls so that people can meet each other. The more exposure you get to other people, the less you're going to hate their guts. The reason everybody doesn't like everybody is because everybody doesn't see everybody. If you go see some people, you might like some of them by accident. You might have fun by accident, but you can't do it if you can't leave your tiny cramped apartment, which is not going to inspire you to want to make babies. Come on, Japan. This is easy. I don't care what your culture is. This is easy. Anyway, next topic. On to tech. I'm very curious if they have some symbols up. If you go on the site, Nate Berry, on that last story I was talking about, I'm very curious what international law organization the United States pulled Iceland and asked them to pull down the servers. It just seems like something where Iceland would want to say no. I'm surprised they said yes. So, on that. Anyway, tech. So apparently the a new world's largest 3D printer has been unveiled, and it can print buildings, presumably, at least a building-sized object, as big as 92 by 32 by 10. And for you Spinal Tap fans, those aren't inches; those are feet. By the way, this is coincidentally, this is just a little bit bigger in every dimension than a double wide. which are very prevalent in Maine, and plenty of people live in them. And maybe that's not a coincidence, because this is actually being run by the Maine State University, and they say their stated goal is to create a pipeline to crank out large amounts of housing in Maine for the homeless, or for, I guess, the housing challenge. I mean, honestly, I don't know how, unless you're an Eskimo, I don't know how you're homeless in Maine 6 months a year. I mean, they get so much snow, it's 2 stories high after some blizzards on the sides of the road. I mean, how do you survive without shelter under those conditions? I mean, I guess at some point it stops being even colder because the snow is insulating you. But yeah, I didn't realize that Maine had such a homeless problem. I'm sorry, I'm probably being insensitive, but it is kind of funny to me, and it's also pretty funny that it's a little bit bigger than a double wide. If you don't know what a double wide is, by the way, it is manufactured housing which could be transported via tractor trailer, and usually they'll double them up, which is why they call them double wides, pre-manufactured housing. So yeah, so apparently this 3D printer can move as much as 500 pounds an hour of material, which is way more than I can sling. And the last largest 3D printer for printing structures, house-sized structures, was printed a 600 square foot home, and that record also belonged to Maine University. So they're really on this. They're taking this pretty seriously. Anyway, really interesting. I picked the story up from AP, but you can get it other places too. And by the way, thanks to Jim for this one, that one, and also this one. The Bluetooth from Space Company, which I mentioned on the show a couple years ago, if you were a longtime fan, Hubble, the Hubble network, has now put 2 satellites into space, and they have successfully connected to Bluetooth, 2 devices on the Earth from space. So they did the math. They had done a test using somebody else's satellite, I think, and I reported on that. Well, they've actually done it with their own gear now. So the 4 satellites are planned this year. They said that this is already being put into use in some places, and 32 satellites are planned for 2025. So this is going to be pretty soon. If you're running a Bluetooth device, it's going to be relatively simple to see it from a satellite, right? Even though that was definitely not the intended use case. So watch what you say on the Bluetooth phone call. All right, so that's it for the tech section. Onward to science! Science! So this is kind of interesting, and I hope that people listen to this and speculate on this. Like, my brain just went all over the place on it, but let me know. So a radio signal from space has been detected that repeats every hour. And wait, check this out. Every hour, it has 3 separate, distinct parts. So it's an embedded pattern. It's a pattern within a pattern. And they think it's some sort of interference pattern, but wait. We don't know what it is. So basically, if it is an interference pattern, it is being generated by some astral body physics that we just don't have a model for. Let me repeat that. This is either intelligent life, or we're receiving a complex interference wave signal from physics that we don't understand. And wait, there's more. Check this out. So apparently, this is not the first time this has happened recently, and I think I kind of remember reporting on this, although there was less to go on because it was just one case. So there was some speculation that maybe it was some sort of echo of human equipment, and we were just making a mistake. But that speculation seems to be completely gone. This is actually the second signal. So we have another signal that repeats every 18 minutes, and it was found in 2022, and we don't understand what that one's about either. And that is also a complex signal, but I think it's only it doesn't have 3 parts in the inner component. So no idea what's going on here. If you're a chalkboard physicist who loves astronomy, this might be the time to make yourself famous, because until we figure this out, I mean, it could be built. Probably not. But wow, I mean that's kind of how, if you remember the movie Contact, that's exactly what was happening. They had basically they just had a pulse, and they just had a series of we received a signal on Earth. I'm giving away the basic plot of the movie. I'm just talking about the signal structure. So we received the signal on Earth, and originally it was just sounded like noises, right? It was just like almost like a drum beat, and it was just ascending and descending measures. But eventually they figured out that those larger noises were just a carrier wave with the plans for an intergalactic travel system inside of the signal. So it's this is also an opportunity. These two things, if they are signals, this is an opportunity for code breakers to try to figure that out. I've long speculated also that, I got to give credit to. I'm just going to say Mark and not get into anything else because he and I had a brief discussion about this. But I also got to give credit to Cliff too. He's like Cliff is another. Cliff High had suggested this, I don't know, 15 years ago, and he's all over the place with his thoughts, but some of them are really interesting. And I completely agree with him, and I think it's a simple concept. If interstellar, subspace, faster than light communications are possible, like if we can do something with, if it's possible to send some kind of signaling system through something like neutrinos, right, or something that maybe don't strictly follow the speed of light laws. Not only is it being done, there's probably an internet set up already across the galaxy, and we just need to be able to read it. So think about how crazy that is, along with this signaling kind of stuff going on here. And anyway, so that's it for Dystopia Report. I have some really interesting things coming up on the show. I actually just today worked out 3 shorts that are going to be pretty explosive, I think, because they're going to have major effects on finance and politics and philosophy and science. I've long had a series of theories I called SivGene. I've only brushed over it casually on the show. I'm ready to get real. We're gonna get. I've been holding back, people. So it's gonna get strange. Just watch these channels for like 10-minute shorts. They'll probably be called Civ Tech. I called one Sex Tech. It may be other ones like that. Clever name, something Tech. But it's all going to be up on the Technocrat Live channels. Just watch for them. They're going to be worth your time, even if you think the interviews are a little slow or the Dystopia Report's a little sparse. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love you guys all. Choose wisely. Choose to share. Good night, everybody.